Did you ever wish that you had some way to extend the shelf life of your pantry items? Well, today I'm going to show you something that can do just that. Welcome to Cooking and Storing with Ann and Wayne. We hope that you will enjoy this video, and if you do, please click on like, subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends. It will help us to keep making these videos. Alright, so when we purchased our freeze dryer last year, we found out that we needed a method to be able to seal our product into mason jars if that's how we wanted to store them. So we started looking at handheld devices for that purpose, and we've got several different methods that we can use. I'm going to demonstrate a couple of them, then Wayne will talk later about some of the other things and what we discovered as far as which one can pull the best seal. So this is pancake mix. Things that you don't use real often need to be stored in airtight containers. And yes, you can use Tupperware or plastic containers, but you know the push now is to stay away from anything with BPA in it, and a lot of plastic containers do contain BPA. Glass jars are completely safe for food storage. They're microwave safe, they're freezer safe, so they're the perfect storage container. And once you use one of these handheld vacuum pumps, it removes all of the oxygen, which is the main enemy of fresh food. By removing the oxygen, you can maintain the integrity of your product for much longer. So I'm going to show you this jar of eggs is some that we put in the freeze dryer back in November, and I'm going to take this lid off, and you should be able to hear the seal break and see the eggs poof up when we open them. And I hope you saw that. So we're going to make sure that our rims are clean, and then we'll put our lid back on, and then we'll take one of our little caps. Now each of these came with two caps, two different sizes, one for your regular mouth mason jars and one for the large mouth jars. So this is just the regular size, so we'll put the regular size cap on it. It's got a hole in the center. And you just push it down, make sure it's on good and tight. And then you take your little vacuum pump. It's got a little hole in the center. When you turn it on and put your finger against it, you can feel the vacuum. And you want to line that little hole up with the hole that's in the top of your lid, or your cap, whatever you want to call this thing. You make sure you've got it on there with making good contact all the way around. You turn it on. When you turn it on, it'll start making the vacuum, and you should be able to hear a change in the sound that it makes once your jar is sealed. You might also hear the jar seal itself. You'll hear a little ping sometimes, but don't depend on that to know when your jar is sealed. It takes about 15 to 20 seconds for it to pull an adequate vacuum. So you turn it on. And then you heard it make a little bit different sound. You heard that ping that time, but again, you won't always hear that. Now, you can just turn it off at that point. You can see that it's seated itself onto your cap. And you'd want to come straight off. And then you can test your seal by pushing up with both thumbs on your lid. And if you can't push it off, then you've got an adequate seal, and that one's sealed real well. Then you want to put a ring on. Well, there's a ring here somewhere on this one. And that will just make sure that your lid stays in good contact with your jar should it come unsealed. That would be a real problem with the freeze-dried stuff, but for your pantry stable stuff, if it came unsealed, you could continue to use your product. So when we ordered these, again, each of them came with the two different size lids. It came with an adapter, so you could use it with a food saver if you have a food saver. And it came with this little lid opener. And the reason you want to use this lid opener is you can reuse the lids with your vacuum pump, which is not true with your regular canning. And at this point, I need to say this is not related to pressure canning or water bath canning at all. So it is no substitution for that, because you don't heat this, any organisms that are present will remain in your jars. Okay, so this is just pancake mix. This is brown sugar. And again, by taking the oxygen out, we are extending the shelf life of these products. Now with the brown sugar, if you've ever had brown sugar to get hard, you know that you might as well just throw it away, unless you know the hack about putting bread in with it, and that'll soften it back up. But we're going to use the little hand pump on this one, and you do it the same way. You just put your cap on, you get a good tight fit, making sure you've got contact all the way around, and then you just pump. And then it will get harder to pump. And at that point, you can see it had seated itself. You heard that little wisp of air, and we should have an adequate seal. We're going to test our seal, and it seems that we have one. And then again, we put our ring on. Now this one I ordered to put in the camper, because when we go camping and we take our freeze-dried eggs, this one is perfect to be able to reseal those between use, so that we don't waste any of our freeze-dried egg product. Now this is just some chicken broth. I make chicken broth and I put it in the freezer, and I want to make sure that when I put that broth in the freezer, it's not going to leak out. So I pull a vacuum seal on it and then put the ring on it, and then I can just lay it in the freezer. I don't have to worry about sitting it up straight so that it doesn't leak, because it's not going to leak once you have that seal. So that's pretty much how easy these things are to use and how versatile they are. So now I'm going to turn it over to Wayne and let him tell you more about what we found as far as how well they work.
Now I'm going to give you a quick review about these different ways that we have for pulling a vacuum on a mason jar. Basically, we got the two small pumps that Ann talked to you about, showed you how to use them. The advantages of this one is it's purely manual. No cords, no batteries to charge, nothing, just all manual. This one is good, but it does have a battery in it. It charges with a USB cable. There's a little port here, but they both work very well. Food saver works great, but it's expensive. If you need a food saver, that's wonderful, but if you don't have one, don't buy a food saver just to vacuum these jars. And this one is used from the automotive industry. It's mostly used for getting the air out of brake lines, but it does pull vacuum to get that air out. Now, I used the gauge on this tool to measure how much vacuum we got on all 4 of these items. This tool would pump to about 25, and the gauge reads, it's INHG vacuum, which basically is inches of mercury. No point going into that, but just know that 29.9 inches of mercury is considered absolute vacuum. And these pumps are not going to get you to that, but they get you far enough. This one would get us to about 25. It did the best, but like I said, it is an automotive kind of tool. But a lot of people use them for this purpose. The food saver, I think it got us to about 23 inches of mercury, which is good. And both of these got us somewhere around 20 to 22 inches of mercury. So as you can see, there's really not a lot of difference in how good of a vacuum all 4 items got for us. I mean, yeah, there were some differences, but any of them are more than accurate or adequate for what we're talking about for storing your dried things in your cabinet. So that's my review on the different vacuum pumps. So at this point, I'd just like to say thank you for visiting Cooking and Storing with Ann and Wayne. We wish you good food, safe storing, and happiness.